Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at more of the books that I have in my personal library that I've collected over the years. So let's take a look and see what I've got hidden on those shelves. Real quick before we start looking into these books, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. You can hit that down there under the video. You can also help support this channel by getting things such as t-shirts like this, the composition frames that are available on my website, or just through direct support through Patreon. It does help get this channel made. But real quick, let's look at some of the books that I've got on my library shelves. These are books that I've just collected either because I really like the work or because I feel like it can in some way contribute to my own work or inform it in some fashion. So I've got quite a few different things we're going to look at today. We're going to look at 4 different books, and next time we do one of these videos we'll look at 4 more. So let's pick some and go for it. This first one that I've got is the Complete Flowers collection by Robert Maplethorpe. If you are not familiar with his work, I highly recommend you look it up, but be very careful that you do when you Google it. I would include the flowers in the search, otherwise you will find his most famous work, which is, how should I say, extremely graphic homosexual BDSM. May not be your thing. If it is, great, look it up. If not, just be prepared. You probably want to include flowers in the search if you want to find this stuff. He was a very fantastic studio photographer in the 80s. He did die of AIDS. He was on that scene, and that's how he contracted it. But his lighting was fantastic. So these are just some examples of how he could really make beautiful photographs with just something as simple as flowers and a vase in his studio. So let's move these other books out of the way and look through this one. The majority of his work is black and white. These are small plates, 1973. These are going to be over quite a few years. They weren't something he just worked on for a little bit. They're just over the years he collected these photos. So these are some smaller ones. He did do color. These are Polaroids, I believe. And he was very, very good at very simple lighting, whether studio, window, or whatnot, but also just really designing the area of the photograph. Let's slide this one down here. You can see he liked very graphic images. So we've got all this negative space with just the flowers coming in from the side, creating a very, very nice design of the image space. This orchid here is very, very beautiful with just the ray of light coming down. This was done just in studio, simple lighting. If you want to learn studio work, this is a great way to do so without really kind of breaking the bank. You don't have to go out and find orchids or lilies that are expensive, but you certainly can get some flowers, get them from gardens, and find ways to construct your image. He's using mostly a square. He did shoot, I believe, with a Hasselblad. Beautiful tonality. A lot of people think they have to get like pure white or pure black backgrounds. This is just a nice medium gray. We do have clean highlights, but they're not like spectacular, brilliant highlights. We do have deep shadow, but most of this photograph lives in the medium tones, and it's just absolutely gorgeous in all the different just the range of midtones that he creates here. And it's very simple 1-point light, just lighting from the side. You can see with the shadows here that it is not incredibly diffused. So it might just be, it could be a window, could be sunlight coming in indirectly. Softer shadows, this could just be even a desk lamp that's relatively close to create a larger specular highlight. It's really nice. And these are just vertical blinds like you would get in a cheap apartment. Very well done with the background, fall off of light. Again, using that sort of rule of thirds, but using the center third for the compositional element that brings you in, broken up with the sides. Fantastic ways of seeing. Very simple, very beautiful. And here we have flowers just spilling out across the image area. You can see that we're lit here kind of with windows to create a general light, but then we've got something right here you can see in the reflection that's probably more of a flash or just a bare bulb hot light to create these areas of brilliant light. So not difficult at all, easy to do, simple white tablecloth against a gray wall. And again, more striking tonality. And with these, we can kind of get a good idea that he's probably using just a seamless paper against the background. He was a professional photographer, so he had his studio in New York, probably did a lot of portraits, a lot of commercial work. So having a big selection of seamless paper, probably in his repertoire. Here he's using the yellow to contrast against the blue-green of the vase. It's very nice. Same here. Another piece of paper that very well could just be a light gray or even a white, just softly lit. And this is probably one of my favorites that I've seen of his, just because we do have really almost no blacks or whites in here. It's all kind of very platinum tones. This is really, really beautiful work. If you can find this book, from what I understand, it's very hard to find now. I just found it at like a Barnes & Noble when I got it, but now I think they're getting harder to find and getting pretty expensive. But if you can, this is definitely one of the best books I've seen for just looking at simple construction of photography, simple lighting, but very effective, very evocative work. So that's Flowers by Maplethorpe. Highly recommended if you can find it. Get yourself a copy. I like it quite a bit. This is Fashion Magazine by Alex Soth. So Alex Soth is like the modern day Stephen Shore, if you've never heard of him. He photographs a lot of banal vernacular work with large format camera. This particular book is a commission for Fashion Week from Chanel, I think. Chanel House. And so he's got his own documentary style take on the assignment. And it says Paris, Minnesota, because he's going to photograph in Paris at Fashion Week, and then in Minnesota after Fashion Week. So here we have Karl Lagerfeld at Fashion Week in Paris at Chanel. Photographing the models, the other photographers, the designers, in this case, waking up in bed, and then ready to go for the show. Here we have Pierre Berge, I think. Berge, one of the designers. DJ at the show. And our model, before and after. Before? After. So he went through. He photographed everything about Fashion Week at this location in his typical large format but now boring style. Oh, here we have an ad. So this is Yves Saint Laurent with a bottle of perfume right there on that rock. And again, more clothing. These are actually fashion photographs, so this is telling us that the polo shirt is by Lacoste and the pants, I think, are Christian Dior. Oh, here we are, setting up. Fashion show. Then, after photographing the models, photographing the clothes, photographing the event, we get to Minnesota. And so now we are looking at models in Minnesota. And we're looking at things such as a Tommy Hilfiger shirt, diesel black jeans, trash and vaudeville shoes. So a very different mindset from Paris and Fashion Week and high fashion to then go to his hometown in Minnesota and photograph what we have there. Some of it is high fashion, like they'll tell you here, this is a high school basketball girls basketball team, but we have leggings by Oscar de la Renta. We have Ferragamo cashmere cardigan. So not clothes that these girls would normally wear, but he's using locals as his models for these high fashion items. And then just photographing scenes from his hometown. Fashion in Minnesota, as we have our two cheerleaders, our two ice fishing guys, not wearing high fashion, photographed exactly the same way as his fashion work. Because that's what he does. Got a Max Diesel cotton t-shirt and jeans, which may be the stuff you can get at the mall. Converse shoes. Not the high fashion stuff. Oh, another ad. What could we possibly be photographing here and advertising, you may ask? It's a bracelet. There it is. And here he's not even telling you what the clothes are. He's telling you what the car is. But again, photographed as high fashion in low fashion areas. So it's just a different way of taking the idea of fashion as both as a high concept and as a local concept. Oh, another ad. Oh, there's a shoe. So if you're interested in work such as this, then look up Fashion Magazine by Alex Soth. I think I got this on eBay, but don't quote me on that. This is a small book by David Hilliard. He is a photographer, artist, and professor up in Massachusetts. And I picked this up when he was doing a lecture about his work at the University of Kentucky as part of their lecture series. He's a nice guy. I talked to him for a little bit about his work. It actually informed me on a series that I was doing when I was in Florida, using multiple panels to tell a story. So his work is in Triptychs and Diptychs. So if you're not familiar with that concept, this is a triptych. It's 3 separate photographs displayed together as one. And he does different things with them. In this case, each photograph could be on its own. So if you cover these 2, look at just that one. We have a great portrait. Same here. Location shot. But together, they're all one piece. It's a different way of seeing. Nothing wrong with that. Just a very different way. So again, here we have a story. It is not meant to be linear. It is just meant to be cohesive. He is not concerned with lining everything up perfectly. He is not concerned with creating the illusion that is all one single image. As we can see, we have very different focal points. Here we're focused way in the back, well, mid-ground with these 2 girls. This guy right up front. These 2 guys a little bit further away. That is not his concern. But we do have just some very interesting imagery. Quadtych. This, I believe, he said was his father and his father's notebooks. And his father was making these notebooks that were not a lot of sense if somebody saw them. They were almost the ravings of a madman, if I remember him talking correctly. And this is his father and a friend and him. It was like a guy's weekend trip, and they would hang out, eat donuts, and watch pornography together. Should mention that Hilliard himself is LGBT, and so he felt very uncomfortable going there with them, but it was the guy's weekend and he went. Here is his father, here is him as a self-portrait, and kind of putting them all together as almost like a linear story. They have similar tattoos. I'm assuming they're real, but they are just going through here. It's very interesting graphic work. He's done quite a few different series. Some of these are self-referential, and some of them are completely different stories for his artwork. And these panels would be 20 by 24 inches in size, making it 24 by 60 inches total. A nice little vertical quadtych on the back. Self-portrait. Nope, not self-portrait. That is Susie. So, a friend. So if you're looking for some interesting conceptual work, thinking about how you can make multiple panel images, David Hilliard's a good one to look up. Definitely recommend him. If you like conceptual work, you may enjoy Gregory Crewson. This is one of 2 books of his that I have. This one is his series called Twilight. If you are unfamiliar with Gregory Crewson, he is a very big name in modern contemporary photography. He is a storyteller, and he considers himself an artist, not a photographer. And he actually rarely even controls the camera himself. He has an entire crew of lighting experts, like you would have a complete setup for a movie set. So most of this is studio lighting, big large movie studio lighting, not photo studio. This is shot on 8x10, and he has a cameraman who actually does the photography for him. And he goes through and he wants to tell stories. So like in this scene, it seems like, you know, fairly straightforward. We got a car on fire. We've got our emergency people on site. And then we have this cop here with some kind of light glowing from a sewer grate. So he likes these slightly off, unsettling images. Here we have the pregnant lady standing outside of her yard at night with a light coming down from the sky. Is it a helicopter? Is it aliens? Is it angels? Who knows? Oh, even more direct. That seems very clear that he's about to be abducted and probed, so good luck, dude. Planting flowers in the kitchen. None of this is natural light. It is all studio lighting. In fact, I believe this is on a sound stage. And in some of his work, he even gets actors. This is a known actor, can't remember his name, seen him in stuff. So he would get local actors, local models, just some regular people if they happen to be going by. And then he would also hire big names depending on the work that he does. So if you like seeing stories that have just a little bit of mystery to them, I'd highly recommend you check out his work. This is one of his more famous pieces, where she's laying in this floating or flooded home. In reality, she is laying on the floor. They filled just enough water to come up the sides. The furniture is cut to look like it's much deeper, because this is on a sound stage. But aside from the technical aspects, it's still, I mean, a fairly disturbing photograph. Is she dead? Is she comatose? Is she just there because? Who knows? But that's the kind of work that he likes to create. These unusual stories, these domestic stories of drama, and it's his thing. I've never seen him make a photograph that didn't involve a huge set and crew. And to be perfectly honest, I don't know if he'd even know how to make just a standard, plain old photograph. But there's a lot of this kind of close encounters with the third kind of feel with a lot of his work. And it's visually interesting. He's definitely good at getting the right people to fulfill his vision. I'd say that's probably the best way to describe it, because it's a lot of work, and it's definitely a lot of big budget stuff. There was some documentary that was talking about $1 million photograph because that's what he spent getting it made. Okay. I mean, he's got the print sales at Gagosian Gallery, I guess, to pay for it, but still. If I spent $1 million making a photograph, my wife would murder me. So if you want that close encounters sort of feel, and you like photographs that are conceptual and created rather than out and found, Gregory Crewson is a fantastic resource to go look at. Like I said, I have 2 of his books. This is one of them. We'll look at the other one another time. It is not really something that I do in my own work, though I have created photographs. One of my most exhibited series involved making machines that look like they might work but didn't actually work. But that's inspired less by his work and more by, I would say, Abelardo Morel, which huge lack in my library are books by Abelardo Morel. So I need to get some so we can look at those. But if you like this sort of stuff, definitely check out Gregory Crewson. He's a big name for a reason. There's also a documentary about him making some of this work, and I do recommend watching that. It's fairly interesting. It's even more interesting when you see him and you think, wow, that looks like the Penguin from Tim Burton's Batman Returns. Maybe he is. All right. That's it for the books. We'll see you next time. Thanks for sticking around and looking through some of my library. We'll see you around.